Good evening. This is Joseph Botash. I'd like to call to order the August 13th, 2024 Wrentham Select Board meeting. In accordance with Chapter 2 of Acts of 2023, this public meeting of the Select Board shall be conducted via remotely through Zoom. The agenda is posted on the town's website to identify how the public may join. Please note, this meeting is being recorded. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I speak your name, please respond in the affirmative. Select Board Member Anderson,
Anderson here.
Select Board Member Gallo,
Gallo here.
Select Board Member Harrington,
Harrington here.
and Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Town Manager Kevin Sweet,
Present.
Assistant Town Administrator Greg Enos. I don't see Greg on. And then our Executive Assistant Amanda Vazzapolo.
Present.
All right. I'd also, before we get into the meeting, like to thank and welcome our Superintendent of KP, Rich Trulette. Welcome a Select Board member from Plainville, Jeff Johnson, and welcome the Chair of the Norfolk Select Board, Jim Lehan. All right. Before we start today's meeting, I would like to take a moment to recognize the devastating loss that Wrentham encountered yesterday with the passing of Deputy Chief George Labonte. George Labonte has been a member of the community all his life, joined the Wrentham Police Department in 2023, became a sergeant in 2010, where I was able to attend my first swearing-in ceremony. 2012, was present for his swearing in as lieutenant, and in 2018, being present for as he was sworn in as our deputy chief. George's battle started in 2016, and he didn't take it lightly. He took it full force and gave it 100%, and fought a fight that many could never have done. To his wife, Katie, his parents, Deborah and George, his kid, Sadie. Bear with me, please. Benji, Jackie, and Julian, our hearts go out to you and to the family. We want to thank you for sharing George with our community to make it a better place. And we are a better place because of people like Deputy Chief George Labonte. At this time, I would like to observe a moment of silence in George's memory. Thank you. And Jim, I would like you to share some of your experiences with George, where you spent the majority of his career as his chief.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So first of all, well said, Mr. Chair, on thoughts and prayers go to, the Labonte family, in particular Katie and the kids, and to his parents. I did have an opportunity to work with George Labonte, and he was a rising star within the police department. I had the opportunity to promote him to sergeant and then later to lieutenant.
Recording.
Chief McGrath promoted him to deputy chief with a succession plan of Deputy Labonte replacing Chief McGrath once he retired. It is a sad day for the town of Wrentham. And Deputy Labonte will be missed. And rest in peace, my friend.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to go to tab 1 and ask our clerk, Bill Harrington, to read the announcements.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Announcements for today's meeting. 2024 state primary election information. Voter registration will be held from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Town Hall on August 24th. Early voting will take place at the Town Hall the following dates and times. Saturday, August 24th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, August 26th, 8 a.m. to 4:30. Tuesday, August 27th, 8 a.m. to 7:30. Wednesday, August 28th, 8 a.m. to 4:30. Thursday, August 29th, 8 a.m. to 4:30. Vote by mail application deadline is August 26th, 2024. Wrentham Day and Wrentham Road Race will be on Saturday, September 7th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the Town Common. Enjoy a fun-filled day of music, entertainment, food, and activities. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bill. Next, let's go over to tab 2. And at this time, the chair entertain a motion to approve the July 9th, 2024 open session meeting minutes.
Motion to move.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Select Board Member Harrington, seconded by Select Board Member Gallo. Is there any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Then, Mr. Chair, I was absent for that meeting, so I'll abstain.
Okay, Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
So that's 4 in the affirmative and 1 abstention. Let's go over to tab 3. And this is in regards to a dog hearing we had. And I want to say, was this back in, we've had a couple. Was this back in September or is it, no, this was the one that was more recent, correct?
The agenda
Well,
item
Mr.
is review the
Chairman.
conditions from December 5th, 2023 dog hearing.
Okay. Just give me a minute, all right? All right, so we do have an email from our current animal control officer. And if our clerk could read it into the record, I'd greatly appreciate that letter, which is on the 15th page of the packet.
I'm not seeing it on my packet.
It's Bill. She sent over an updated packet this afternoon. That could be the problem.
All right.
If you can read it in, because I
You
don't
want me
think
to
I.
read it in, Mr. Chair?
Please.
Yeah, Select Board Member Gallo, I don't think I'd be able to do it. If you could, it would be great.
No, I'll gladly do it, Mr. Chair. It's from Alexandria Clank, Tuesday, August 13th, 2:02, to Amanda, dog hearing follow-up, upcoming select board meeting. Hi, Amanda, I spoke with Greg. I may not be able to get to the meeting tonight as I have an appointment at 6 o'clock that I can't reschedule. I was filled in briefly on this entire situation since I have not had any run-ins or issues with that dog, as long as I have been the animal control officer for our town. Who had originally requested the dangerous hearing, and the victim of the incidents has reached out to me expressing her concerns of the muzzle restriction possibly being lifted. She explained to me that they have not violated the restriction and the dog has had 0 incidents since, but she is still concerned about the dog not wearing a muzzle when walking outside near her house. I think it might be a good idea to have the dog owner possibly stay away from that residence or be muzzled when walking by that residence, or just completely avoid walking by. I can't say whether the dog should or shouldn't be muzzled since he hasn't had any more issues, and I have personally not had any run-ins with the dog. If the trainer feels comfortable with the dog's progress and thinks that it is safe to remove the muzzle while outside, I don't think that there is anything wrong with that. But of course, there's always the possibility that the dog could bite again, if not on a leash, or if it gets free from the owner, or if they don't follow the other guideline restrictions. So it's hard to say. The dog should 100% at all times be under control by a person, whether it's on a leash or confined to the inside of the house or yard. As long as the dog is under control, walked solo, quotation, parentheses, no other dogs, and with a person who is strong enough to control the dog, I can see lifting the muzzle would be okay. Let me know if you have any other questions, and you can let me know what time the meeting is, blah, 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 blah. Lexi Klen, Regional Animal Control Officer, Wrentham Police Department. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get together my thoughts together today. I see we have Attorney Chaplin with us, who was with us during the dog hearing. And at this point, I'm going to ask to turn this over to Attorney Chaplin to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Much appreciated. Nice to be with the board as always. And sorry to hear the passing of your colleague over the weekend. This is a request by the dog owner through their counsel, Attorney Langer, who's also with us this evening, to asking the board essentially to remove the muzzle restriction, which was one of the conditions that the board imposed back in December after making a finding that this dog was a nuisance dog. The only insight that I can give the board is that, that is something you have the legal authority to do, but not the legal obligation to do. That is up for the board to decide after hearing whatever information Attorney Langer and his clients would like to present to the board. I did see a report by a behavioralist. If the board wanted me to express my own opinion, it would obviously be limited because I'm not an expert. I probably have some of the same reactions that you do. But again, I really defer to the board from a legal standpoint. The ask is it's something you could do, but it's not something that you have to do legally.
All right. So Attorney Langer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Would you speak on behalf of your client?
Certainly. I believe the behaviorist Sue Thibodeau is with us. I see a Sue, I think it's her. You have her report before you. You have your own dog officer's report saying there is no reason not to because everything else is being complied with and has been since before this board actually issued its order of conditions. The CODAs were already walking Seamus individually. They were already using a harness. They were already avoiding the neighbor's property anytime she was out. So, those are the main conditions. Those will continue to be in place. Those would be continued to be practiced by the CODAs if they weren't board conditions. All we're asking is that we have the obligation to have the muzzle lifted. And if Ms. Thibodeau is here, I would like to hear from her. I'm not sure if she's checked in. I see a Sue, apparently it's not her. I also have Mr. and Mrs. Coda available. I'd like to hear from Sharon as to the, oh, Sue, there you are. Ms. Thibodeau, can you tell us, based upon your contact with Seamus, whether the board should continue the restriction that Seamus be walked with a muzzle?
Yes. First, let me just clarify. I am a dog trainer, not a behaviorist. A behaviorist would be somebody with a master's level degree in related field, which I do not have. That said, I do feel management is sufficient. The context of the behavior is narrow, it's specific, thus predictable, and readily managed. The Codas have a history of being responsible. This is not a dog that has a history of being at large, and the day of the incident, there were some unique circumstances that may have contributed that would not be normally in place. They had work being done to their home, a new driveway being put down, loud equipment, commotion. In any case, I do feel that it's reasonable to discontinue use of the muzzle, that management is sufficient, and so I concur with your ACO.
And in the 8 months that you've been involved with this dog since the order issued, are you aware of any incidents with Seamus?
I am not.
In fact, are you aware of any incidents involving Seamus other than this one specific neighbor who approached the dog at that time?
I am not. According to testimony, he behaves in a friendly fashion to others in a range of demographic, age, and gender, children to older adults.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I believe Sharon Coda is available. I would like to hear from her if she is. I thought I saw her checked in.
Yes, I am here, sorry. Yes, I stay away from the Davises. If I see them out, if I have Seamus out, I typically walk early in the morning. He is on his harness and leash and muzzle at this time. I have not had any issues. I run into people in the morning and it's been no issues.
Yeah. During these walks, what is your policy as regards your neighbor's property?
I don't. So my mother lives a couple doors down, so I will go to her house and I will walk down. If they're out front, I don't want to go. If I see them, I don't want to go near them. I actually don't really want to see them, so I try to stay away as best I can.
So basically, you avoid walking Seamus past their property.
Well, I have to walk past their property to get to my mom's and on my walk, but I typically walk early in the morning or later times. But if they were out front towards the road, I would not go out there.
And tell the board what sort of harness you use to control Seamus. We can't hear you. You're muted.
So I use a full harness that has a front clip and a back clip, and I use the front clip so I can control them better. I actually use it on my younger dog as well, and I walk them separately. Like I don't walk the two of them together.
So just to be clear, Seamus is always walked individually.
Since this, yes.
In your walks, do you ever encounter other people?
Absolutely. I actually ran into someone down the street this morning that stopped us to chat.
Has Seamus ever reacted negatively to any of these people you meet?
No.
Does the board have any question for Ms. Thibodeau or Ms. Coda, Mr. Chairman?
Well, what I'd like to do is before I open it up, I would like just to hear from the Davises if they're on the call.
Certainly.
Yes, we're here. Just a moment.
All right. All right. Would you like to add anything before we?
I would. I would like to say there have been no incidents since the last one, which we're very thankful for. I'd also like to remind the board that we live directly next door to the Cottas, and Sharon's mother lives on the other side of us. So she walks that dog past our house every day. We have 2 young children. That dog has not just bit me once, it's bit us twice. So I'd be curious if Sue knows that information. Just because that was not reported does not mean that it did not happen. The dog has bit me twice, and the first time there was no stacking. So I'd be curious what Sue's opinion is about the likelihood of a dog that has bit someone multiple times to bite them again if the circumstances allow. I am trying to protect my family here. I have nothing against the dog. I don't even have anything against the Cotters. I have young kids, and our safety is the first and foremost important thing to me. And that's why we're here.
Thank you. Hey, Sue, do you want to respond?
If Seamus, if the circumstances played out again as they did before, yes, Seamus would likely bite. However, that requires proximity.
We live next door to them. Next door.
May let her finish, please.
I'm sorry.
I have found the Cotters to be very responsible. I don't, and very motivated that there not be another incident. So my expectation would be that that they would manage the dog and they wouldn't, so that he didn't have an opportunity.
And just to remind everybody, you are speaking on as a trainer and not as a behavioral specialist, correct?
Correct.
All right. Select Board Member Anderson, any questions for any of the parties?
I think it was Chair. Yeah, so Sue, Jim
Yeah.
Anderson. Just a quick question. So is there any harm for Seamus to be walked with a muzzle? Is there any harm to the dog?
So it does, the best fitting muzzle probably still inhibits panting to some degree. And on a hot, humid day, that's key to thermoregulation. But if he's comfortable wearing it, I suppose not.
Okay, thank you.
Select Board Member Gallo.
More of a comment, Mr. Chair. I mean, I'm not going to speak for any of the other board members, but I'm clearly not a policy expert with this subject matter. And as such, I think if we always tend to, I think the board does a great job of empowering the policy experts to make these decisions. Is it out of the question to have the dog officer meet the dog and make her own determination and then advise the board what the dog officer thinks we should do? Because ultimately, doesn't this fall into the dog officer's jurisdiction and ultimately, the police jurisdiction?
Well, I think we did have a letter from the dog officer.
But she never met her, Mr. Chair. Never met the dog, Mr. Chair. Never.
Right.
Again, I'm not saying we have to do that, but we're being asked to make I can see this on both sides. Once again, we're being asked to make a very difficult decision. I can see valid reason why the muzzle should be taken off, and I can also see the Davis's concern about if it does, and to Selectman Anderson's question, are we really, hurting the dog by keeping it on? Because I'm not a policy expert, I wish that the dog officer could be on tonight. I'm aware she had an appointment, a conflict, but for me, I'd want to see that she at least met the dog, get her opinion before we're asked to make a difficult decision. That's just me, though. So no further comments or questions.
That's very reasonable. Select Board Member Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just I did go back and find the dog Lexi's notes. And it says, I think it might be a good idea to have the dog owner possibly stay away from the residence or be muzzled when walking by that residence, or just completely avoid walking by, which obviously can't be done. And then it says, I can't say whether the dog should or shouldn't be muzzled since he hasn't had any more issues or run-ins with the dog. And then she goes on to say, if the trainer feels comfortable with the dog's progress and thinks it's safe to remove the muzzle outside, I don't think there's anything wrong. But of course, there's always a possibility that the dog could bite again if not on a leash, or if it gets free from the owner, or if they don't follow the other guidelines. So those are just clarification from Lexi's notes. And again, I agree with Selectman Gallo that, you know, we're being put in a very difficult situation, and I don't think any of us are dog experts. So it's, I just want to point out the fact that this is, you know, extremely difficult, and being a proud and very happy dog owner myself, that I can understand how hard it is. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Select Board Member Rouse.
I have no further questions, just the same sort of comments in terms of, you know, we're not experts in this field, so I would rely on those that are in their advice in this situation.
All right, so me, as you know, I'm a new dog owner as of Sunday, so my vote would be emotional. As you know, I'm very emotional today, but I would agree with the board. I would like to have the animal control officer meet with the dog and speak more in depth on it. And if the board is agreeable to that, I would like to continue this until the opportunity has taken place.
Mr. Chairman, we find that an eminently reasonable course of action, and the coders will meet with the town's dog officer at any convenient time.
I would like to be present when that happens, and I want the dog officer to see how the dog reacts to me and my family.
Select Board Member Anderson, how do you feel about that?
I concur, Mr. Chairman.
Select Board Member Gallo?
Yes, Mr. Chair, concur.
Select Board Member Harrington?
Yes, sir, I agree. Thank you.
And Select Board Member Rouse?
I agree as well, thank you.
All right, so if we could set up an agreeable time with all parties, with our animal control officer, and to come back with an opinion, hopefully for our next meeting, which is the first meeting in September.
Just so I'm clear, we're supposed to have this meeting with the one person that the dog has had issues with, Mr. Chairman?
They've asked to be present.
I understand that my safety is not important. You have made that very, very clear, but I live next door to the dog. I live next door to the dog, and I believe it's reasonable that the animal control officer sees how this dog reacts to me and my husband. My children will not be present, but me and my husband should be there so they can see how the dog reacts to us, since the dog walks by our house on the single sidewalk that we share.
I've done nothing to slight your safety, and my clients have gone to great lengths to avoid any contact with you since the incident. They do not walk by your house if you are present. They go around on the other side, or they walk in a different direction.
There is no other side. There's one sidewalk. It's West Street.
There are two sides of the road.
But folks, this all goes through the chair, just to reiterate the rules of the road here, that not a back and forth between different people in the meeting.
Correct. So I'm going to, Attorney Chaplin, is our request reasonable, and is the request of the Davises reasonable?
Mr. Chair, mostly my personal opinion here. I think the request that the animal control officer have an opportunity to observe the dog with the person who's had an issue is a reasonable request. It sounds like the request may be going a bit further than that the animal control officer only have an opportunity to observe the dog with this specific person. I'm not sure the board wants to handcuff the animal control officer, who is the subject matter expert, in that manner. So I'm trying to answer the question. I think the idea that the animal control officer have a full understanding of a situation is a reasonable request. But I think I would suggest, this is not a legal opinion, but I just think as a matter of process, the animal control officer, being the subject matter expert, should have a little bit of leeway to evaluate the situation as he or she deems appropriate.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I would agree that since your animal control officer is doing your investigation, it should be under her criteria to satisfy her, so she can give a satisfactory report to your board.
All right. So I think my recommendation would be to meet directly with the pet in question, the CODIS pet, And if she deems necessary to interview the Davises, it's her decision to make.
Concur, Mr. Chair.
Select Board Member Gallo,
Concur.
Select Board Member Harrington,
Concur.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Concur.
All right, so let's try to set this up for as soon as possible and try to resolve this at our next meeting. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney
you.
Chaplin, for being with us this evening.
My pleasure as always.
All right, next, we're gonna go over to tab 4. And we have with us, I saw somebody from Good Energy. And where'd you go?
I'm here.
Radafi. How do you pronounce your name?
It's Rafida.
Rafida. Rafida,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank
So
you.
I'm going to turn the floor over to you because we received a letter from the Commonwealth of Mass in regards to the municipal load aggregation plan.
Okay. I'll just share my screen. Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, great. So, hi everyone. Tonight I'm here to provide a brief overview of the draft plan for the Wrentham Community Electricity Aggregation Program, open the public hearing, and discuss the next steps. My name is Rafida Rahman, and I'm the Sustainability and Engagement Strategist at Good Energy. So this slide basically shows how the program works. The program is about your electricity supply and where it comes from. Wrentham will choose the supply for the whole community. National Grid will continue to be the utility, and you will get, and despite the fact that, you know, the supply and the delivery will be two separate things from this program, you will still get one bill. And the benefits of the program will be discussed later on. So on July 1st of this year, the town and Good Energy consulted with the Department of Energy Resources. Hard copies of the plan were provided at the town hall, and the online version was accessible on the program website. The public review period kind of opened on July 9th, and I was also here at that time to present about the program. And the public hearing that of today was also promoted through Wrentham's municipal website and social media. The town also announced the public review period and the public hearing through the Wrentham cable TV station. Flyers were posted at town hall and the public library to advertise the public review. To advertise the public review period and hearing. And Good Energy also collected comments and responded to them throughout the public review period, which I will also get to within a few minutes. So let's discuss about what comes next. So today we're having the public hearing, and the town manager and Good Energy will be working together to incorporate comments. And the town manager will also approve the plan and will submit the plan to the Department of Public Utilities. However, I also wanted to, hello, sorry. Oh, is someone trying to talk? I can't see my screen.
No, you're good, Rafida. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you, sorry. So what I'm trying to say is that the current plan that we had shared for the Wrentham Community Electricity Program for the public review period, that is in the old format, but based on the new DPU guidelines, we are going to transition Wrentham's plan into the new format and submit to the DPU. And once approved, Wrentham has the option to seek proposals for an electricity supply contract. So I'm gonna give a brief overview of some of the key parts of the plan ahead of the public during this public hearing. So let's talk about the goals of the program. So basically, the primary goal of the program is to leverage bulk purchasing to secure competitive rates and best terms for the community, broaden consumer electricity supply options, and offer choices for supporting clean energy. Let's talk about the program rollout. At program launch, Wrentham Community Electricity will replace National Grid as the town's new default electricity supply. And there will be a 30-day opt-out period, and education materials will be sent prior to the program launch. And everyone who uses the National Grid Basic Service will be sent the letter. And if in that 30-day period someone doesn't opt out, they will be automatically enrolled into the program. The main benefits of the program is of the lower pricing, price stability, and cleaner electricity. However, future savings cannot be guaranteed. And one of the great things of the program also is that it does not disrupt any existing benefits. Bill discount for low-income rates class, benefits for solar net metering customers, and budget billing, all of that stays put. Also, if someone doesn't want to be in the automatic launch, they can always join later, even if they have their own supplier. And like all customers, including those who are on third-party supplier program launch and want to enroll in the program after their supply contract ends, may enroll in any program product by contacting the program's customer support or the competitive supplier. So Wrentham offers two products, but one of them will be the default, which is the automatic one called Wrentham Standard. And Wrentham Standard is basically designed to maximize potential savings while meeting the state minimum of renewable energy. And the goal of, there's another product, which is the optional product called Wrentham Plus. And the goal of this product is for more environmentally conscious citizens who want significant additional renewable energy, but wouldn't mind it at a higher price point. So to summarize, the town is creating a program where residents and businesses can choose their electricity supply from different options. And like I mentioned earlier, they can automatically join, but can also opt out or choose a different plan. And the program offers a standard option with no additional renewable energy and a premium option with 100% renewable energy. And eligible customers will receive a notice with details about the plans before the program starts, and people can join or leave the program anytime. So the program is still being developed and is expected to start in early 2025. And I would love to take your questions now and discuss next steps. And for more information, please check the website, wrenthamcommunityelectricity.com. Let's open the public hearing, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Just to be clear, this is not a public hearing. This is public comments. Just want to make that clear because a public hearing is advertised through other formats, and it's a procedure for opening. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to Select Board Member Anderson. Any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Select Board Member Gallo.
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Select Board Member Harrington.
No questions at this time, Mr. Chair.
All right. And Select Board Member Rouse.
No questions. Thank you for your information.
All right. Are there any residents who have questions? All right. Town Manager Sweet, do you have any comments?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm good. Look forward to working with the Good Energy team. And thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, so no questions then? Thank
No
you so much thank you so much for having me.
All
And
right.
in case anyone has any questions, you can always email me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, this time let's jump over to tab 5. And this is in regards to the Tri-County Gala. And we have with us Christian Andriozzi and I don't see Marcus or Chandler, so Christian, we have you, and I know Chris Gallo's been involved with this also, but I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good to see a lot of you. So yes, to sum this up real quickly, 350 Gala for those of you who were there last year was very successful. The residents of the town were very happy with it. And in the weeks following the gala, I got endless emails and texts and phone calls finding out if this was going to be an annual event because people just had such a great time. Our town doesn't do anything like this, really very regularly. So Marcus and Chris and I started talking and decided to put one together ourselves. And then when we booked the venue at Lake Pearl, it turns out that Chandler had actually saved that date, wanting to do the same thing. So we got involved with her as well. So the four of us have secured Lake Pearl, same venue as last year. Same band is coming back. We're gonna, obviously have a few different things. We are inviting Norfolk and Plainville to this gala this year, so that way we can have some more communities getting involved and just enjoying themselves on a night out. At the gala, we are planning on having about 2 to 3 charities per town that will be available for people to make donations to right then and there when they arrive. We will, of course, publicize it as much as we can leading up to the gala. Once we have kind of finalized our list, we're looking at possibly doing some donations to the food pantries in the towns, the American Legions, maybe any of the Lions clubs, the senior centers, any types of charities or clubs that maybe, maybe could benefit from some fundraising. Because as we all know, in this day and age, every club, committee, nonprofit can benefit from any fundraising. So I reached out to Mike King at the beginning of July because we came to a little bit of a halt when we realized that once these tickets go on sale, where was the money going to go from the ticket sales? We can't really just open our own bank accounts to have all of this come in. So I did reach out to Mike to find out if there were any donation accounts that were maybe open in the town that were previously used by Wrentham community events. And he did mention that if we came forward tonight to the Board of Selectmen and asked to be appointed as a committee, a donation account could be put in our name through the town. So that way, when we do start selling tickets in October, it can just be right through the town website. It can go right into a town bank account. And there wouldn't be any issues. And because this is getting quite a bit of attention from the public, a lot of people are interested in going. We are very much looking at creating a 501c3 or a C7 to actually become a nonprofit group that can put this type of event together every year, because then we can build with sponsorships and more involvement. We can do a lot more with it. But for this initial year, since we don't have anything set up, we are looking to hopefully have that donation account set up just so that way when ticket sales start, the money will have somewhere to go.
Great. So Kevin, what would be the process to set up a committee and get the account set up?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I've expressed some concerns when I got this. So a municipal finance law is pretty intricate. You know, I saw Kristen's request and letter, and I immediately had some concerns around what was being proposed, and was kind of surprised, as was indicated, that the way Mike's response. I'm not sure if he fully understood what the intent or how this was being planned to go. But so I mean, there's a couple of red flags here and a couple of concerns. The town can obviously set up donation accounts or gift accounts, if you will. The problem here is the town cannot take in a gift and then provide something in return. So the issue of the structure and the way this is formed is very complicated to have this as a town committee or town function for this purpose. In fact, Division of Local Services highly recommends that it be independent of the town because of these municipal finance issues. So in this case, you would be essentially making a donation or a gift and then in return receiving a ticket. Very clear that that is not an allowed municipal finance practice. So that's one major concern. Obviously the town making not tax dollars, but even taking in a gift donation and then making a payment to another nonprofit. It's very clear we can't use tax dollars in the sense of our local tax money to make a payment for that purpose. This is a little gray. I actually asked Mike to contact Division of Local Services and specifically DLS Law Department, who did make that recommendation. They highly recommend, based on what's being proposed, that citizens form a separate 501c3. Now, I mean, it's very much in relation to why we have a Friends of the Library group, why we have a Friends of the Senior Center group, because of these issues around fundraising and taking in donations and actually soliciting donations and different things like that. So it becomes very complicated. There are some areas that we probably could make work a little gray, but I think it really restricts the ability to really do what and I fully support it. I think it's a great idea. I mean, obviously I was part of the gala. There was a lot of energy. There's a lot of excitement. I just want to be able to make it work and be successful and legally. Some of you recall, I know at least Jim and Joe participated in the if we go back to the Dancing with the Stars type of conversation. That was a 501c3. There was the Wrentham events group. That was a corporation with a separate nonprofit board. I think it's all good intention. I still do not believe that we are allowed to do what's being proposed under the finance, under municipal finance law. Once we can take in a gift, and somebody can make a gift without the expectation of receiving something. So in return, if you're making a donation, you're essentially making a donation to buy a ticket to attend the gala. They're essentially receiving something. So it's pretty it's more complex than it should sound to be, if you will.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if you don't mind, just a quick comment. So just to back up, as Kristen did a great job articulating the reason why we thought this would be a great idea, the energy that everyone commented, the gala brought everyone together, and we thought that was a piece of unity that was missing for a little while, at least since I've been in town. And we just got so much good feedback on it. And the fact that this is not no one's suggesting this, but in no way is this a money grab. This is all the proceeds benefit charity. It's just a feel good night for people to dress up and have fun, support a great cause. So the three of us got together and we said, wouldn't this be incredible if we opened the doors to the Tri-Town community and invited our friends in Norfolk and Plainville as well. So we really like that idea of the camaraderie of the three communities coming together for a good cause, building relationships. Now, I will say, Kristen, when you and I and Marcus and Chandler were talking about this, my interpretation, understanding was that it was going to mirror kind of what they did for Dancing with the Stars. What I'm hearing tonight from Kevin and Mike's response is obviously a little bit different than what I was under the impression that we were going to do. So I would say right up front, I have reservations about us having this be any kind of a town event. I think that's a very big mistake. I'm obviously on the board here. I don't want anyone saying like, oh, Selectman Gallo pressured me to buy a ticket to the Tri-Town Gala. I just think we need to figure out a way after listening to this to form our own, and we're open to suggestions, guys, how we form our own C3 like they did for Dancing with the Stars, figure a way to collect money through our own bank account and really keep this separate from the town business. I'm open to hear the other members' suggestions or feedback, but I'm just having some major red flags from what
If I could, just to Selectman Gallo's point, I also see this very similar to what you described as the Dancing with the Stars event, which is why a separate 501c3 was utilized for that purpose, because they were taking in those donations, and they had a dedicated website. It looked like that went in, I think, in 2012. It looks like it kind of dissolved around 2022. But for these same reasons, I'm sure, again, that predates me. But I'm sure that's the exact reason why the Wrentham Events Committee Inc. was formed for that purpose.
So does that committee still exist? And I think that's where Kristen was going with this. Can we somehow resurrect that committee? Or do we need to form our own?
To be clear, it's not a town committee. It's a actual board of directors that are formed as the board behind a 501c3. It looks like the last 990, which is a nonprofit filing form, was done for 2021 in 2022. It doesn't look like there's been any activity. The board members are listed. They're definitely still residents of Wrentham, and it might be just a matter of filing a new annual report and updating the board. It might, they have a federal an EIN number. They're already an established entity. They're already set up as a 501c3. So from my perspective, my recommendation would be to tap into that former board and see if there's a way to kind of revitalize an existing entity. It probably will require another filing, but I've looked at it and it doesn't look like there was any. Sometimes if you wait more than a year, they do what they call administrative dissolution, and the LLC, or in this case, a nonprofit corporation, would get dissolved. It doesn't look like any of that's happened. So it might be just filing a new annual report and defining a new board of directors. But again, it's not I know it gets confusing when we say committee or anything, but that was definitely totally outside of the town government component.
Yeah, I know that one or two members did move out of town, committee members, board members. But I know like Cal Hawkins is still in town, and she was one of the members. And if they could revitalize it, vote in a new board of directors, and re-energize it, would probably be the best way to go, in my opinion. And secondly, for clarification, Select Board Member Anderson did not dance in Dancing with the Stars. I did. He sent the deputy to do his job.
Exactly.
And they're still talking about it.
Thank you. And that was and maybe it was the way that Mike and I communicated it. There just may have been some miscommunication about what I was initially asking, because that was basically what I was asking him initially was, is there some kind of a fund or a 501c3 that has not been used in a long time that we would be able to get into somehow, that was around the events in the town. And I think there was just some miscommunication between the two of us about what exactly we were looking to do and what he was trying to explain. So my apologies for taking up everyone's time. I will absolutely go back to talking with Chris and Marcus and Chandler about kind of our next steps and what we can do to make this right. Because I absolutely don't want to do anything that would, raise any red flags or look like, it's, not the way it should be done. So I'm happy to do that, but I appreciate the feedback.
All right.
Thanks.
Any further discussion on this?
Yeah.
Being none, let's jump over to tab 6. And tab 6 was put on the agenda before Governor Healy's decision back in late July. And we invited Chairman Lehan and Superintendent Roulette back then to join us. And I am very happy that Jeff Johnson from Plainville has joined us. And there is another Plainville person on there, but I'm not sure who it is. We kind of had a similar conversation a year ago when Plainville was, Town Administrator Noble, how are you? We had a similar conversation a year ago, roughly, first meeting in September, when the migrants came to Plainville. And Town Administrator Noble was gracious to join us. And, we went through the obstacles, we went through the challenges that they were having. And it was a twofold. It was more so to understand what the challenges, help us to try to figure out impacts to the community. In the event we were brought these migrants, there are shared services. There are shared services with the King Philip's Regional School System. And I am very happy of the great communication between public safety, the three towns. They support each other well. And it was something that, we were there to support Plainville. And I know when I say support, I gotta be careful. We couldn't offer any financial support because we had a hard enough time balancing a budget on our own side. So financial support is something we can't offer. But as a neighboring community, we can offer support. And our goal was to do the same with Norfolk. And Chairman Lehan and I have had a few conversations, and he explained a few things to me that the state was handled a little bit differently than when I went to Plainville. And the one thing that Chairman Lehan said that I just wanted to address is pick up the phone and call me. The Wrentham Select Board is a little bit different. We're 5 members, and we are very transparent. There's no one-on-ones. We sit here in this conference room or this Zoom meeting, and we have the conversation with all members. And we do that so everybody has a say. And to pick up the phone and call to have a discussion, we leave that to our town manager, and to talk to town administrators and do so and communicate to the other communities. But for us to pick up a phone and make that call, it's not been our rule. And it's always been something we're inclusive. We're a 5-member board, equal, all doing the same amount of work, I think the 4 board members work harder than I do because they're very dedicated and I'm proud to serve with them. But the reason why we don't pick up the phone and make the phone call directly to one-on-one is because of that, because of our transparency. It's our kind of informal agreement and it works well for us. So when the lack of, we'll say, I'm not gonna say lack of communication, I gotta think of a better word, but when we were finding out about meetings via State Rep Vaughn was informing us, it kind of brought to our attention that we weren't being, not asked to the dance, but to, hey, we've got a big burden coming on our shoulders. Norfolk got hit pretty hard compared to Plainville, but it was something that we didn't have the opportunity to, number one, offer support and to understand the impacts on all parties. So we we've asked our town administrator to talk to the town administrator in Norfolk to set up a joint meeting, and it never took place. And I think that, like I said, the best way to have this conversation is in a group. So I'm glad you're here. So I wanted to, as we look back now, the impact on the schools, what they're telling us is not going to be there. I sat through the meeting that was hosted by Superintendent Roulette, and I got some information out of it. Did I get all the information? No. It was the first time I did hear on how the first year worked with KP, and I think it was the first time our board members heard how the transition of the migrant students were with the school system. Brian, Town Administrator Noble, was very gracious, filling us in on everything that they had gone through. And it was a matter of 5 days when we had that meeting and the impacts it had. Jeff did give me a call because he was unable to attend. We spoke briefly, but I wanted to leave it all on the table for the meeting. So I thank you for coming here. And I'm going to have my board members ask any questions that they may have, because as you can tell, my voice is getting a little bit raspy for some reason. So I'm going to start with Select Board Member Gallo.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. So appreciate everyone being here. Chairman Lehan, Superintendent Drolet, Town Managers Noble, and Johnson. My thing was, we just want communication. This is a very, very important situation that affected the Tri-Town community. And again, we felt like there was just a lack of communication. We feel like 3 is stronger than 1. And we felt like Norfolk tried to, take the lead, maybe because the migrants would be in house in your community, Chairman Lehan. But, we felt like there should have been more communication. We felt like we should have been with you as 2 joint boards. If Plainville wanted to be there, then we would welcome them too, to approach the governor united and the governor's staff united to say, hey, listen, here are the 3 stakeholders. This is how it's going to affect our communities, and not just hear it from Norfolk. My experience is when you bring numbers and show that we're united and that we're communicating and that we, are trying to have a plan that works for all 3 communities, you take it more seriously. I think, you were thrown into a very difficult situation. I'm not debating that at all. But the thing that was most troubling to me was that we asked for a meeting with your board, and we asked our town manager to reach out to you or your town manager, and we were told there was no interest in meeting with us, which was slightly appalling to me, seeing as though we were going to have 300 people in a prison in short order. So that was my biggest level of frustration, that I just, to this day, want to just say that. So through you, Mr. Chair, it looks like Chairman Lee would like to address that, if that's okay with you.
Oh, certainly.
First, Joe, as a fellow cancer survivor, I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope that things are going well for you. But I need to clarify a couple of things here because there is some misinformation on the part of your board. You never requested from our town administrator to have a meeting with our Board of Selectmen. That request was never made. You requested to sit in with the meetings with the state, which was not allowed by the state, and our town administrator informed your town administrator that that was not possible. I have never, as a chair, has my town administrator received any request from your board to meet with our board. We would do it gladly, anytime, any place, but that request never took place.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to stop.
Let me finish.
Our town manager.
Mr. Gallo, please
let me finish, and then I'll let you respond.
I did not come to this meeting to get into that letter, but you have raised it, and I strongly disagree with the way you have positioned that. We never received a request from you or your town administrator to meet with our select board, period. It did not happen. We did receive a request. Let me finish, please. We did receive a request from your town administrator to participate in the meetings with the state, which was not possible. And your town administrator was told that. I can't even have my other 2 selectmen in that meeting with the state. It is their meeting, their rules. It is not a public meeting. It is not a posted meeting. Your representatives, Representative Vaughn, is not even in those meetings. They are exclusively for the issues in Norfolk. I would have been coming to your board anytime you wanted me, if you asked. This has been a very difficult 3 months for us. But your point that you're disappointed that we turned down a meeting with our board is false. It did not occur.
I don't believe that's accurate. I'd like our town
Mr.
manager.
Pete, you're on the call. What did you say to our town?
No. Through our chairman, Mr. Chair. Through our chairman.
Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. Kevin, can you comment on this? And again, it might be semantics, but I don't want to be told that our board is providing false information because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see fellow community members. Yeah, the way Mr. Lehan has laid it out is factually inaccurate. That is not true. There was never a formal letter that was submitted, no. In fact, Town Administrator Noble's on, he was included in the conversation. In fact, we actually proposed a meeting date of May 28th, and this occurred on both May 15th and May 16th, where we requested to set up a meeting amongst the 3 towns. And there was further follow back up. I confirmed with Town Administrator Noble, that of the potential for the date. He said he would check with his board, as did your town administrator. So to say that we didn't request a meeting, in fact, we actually proposed a meeting date to have the meeting, to which the message came back. And this, I don't even think you guys had a meeting scheduled at this time with the state. So that was irrelevant. There really wasn't any discussion to have with the state. We kind of could care less. Ultimately, we weren't invited to attend the state meetings. I get that. But we wanted to have a joint meeting amongst the 3 towns, of which I tried to coordinate through my colleagues in both communities on both May 15th and 16th. There's no disputing that. I have the messages. To which I proposed a date to which they both said they would look into. I believe I confirmed back with Justin that Plainville was available, and he would check with his board on that being a potential date. So again, I'm not looking to, I have a great working relationship with both towns. Both of my colleagues in both communities are fantastic. This is not an issue amongst administration. We work together as good as can be, right? We do a lot of shared services things. We're doing great programs and we're doing real work. Not looking to get into the semantics of he said, she said, but your statements are grossly inaccurate and not factual.
Thank you for your
I propose the dates.
I take great exception to that. Unless my town administrator is not informed me correctly, we have never received, to my knowledge, as chair of the Board of Selectmen, I have never received a request from your board through my town administrator to have a joint meeting. I know of no such request. Had I received that request, I would have welcomed it. The only request I understood took place was that you board requested to participate in the meetings with the state, which was not possible, nor was it frankly even appropriate. That is the only request I am aware of. So if there is a miscommunication around, which is very possible, I am telling you what I know as chair of the board. And I've been on this board for 18 years. We would never turn down a joint meeting if we were requested to meet with our board. I know of no such request. I'm not telling you it didn't occur. I'm telling you I do not know of it. That is not a gross misstatement, Kevin, in any way.
All right.
That is factual. Can we move beyond this? Because this is going
that's what I want to do. What I want to say is, and you just alluded to part of it, you've been on the board for 18 years. I've been on for 15 years. I think the 3 towns have worked the best in this past 7, 8, 10 years than they ever did. So I want to compliment. And, Jim, remember going back and doing budgets where it was every town for themselves. It's totally a different environment. If you did not get the information, well, that's on your end to look up, but let's move on. Select Board Member Rouse, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess and then we'll move on. As a board member, if this was happening in Wrentham, while we were strategizing our next steps, I can guarantee one of the first steps would be reaching out to Norfolk, Plainville, and any other surrounding towns that it would impact beyond the schools, and because it impacts services as well. So that's just my perspective. I know that we're going to be moving on. I do have questions though regarding like the logistics and the new 5-day rule, and what's happening in terms of families, where they're going, and some of those that either we can hear how that's gone in Plainville, what's happening in Norfolk, and how that, I know that we have said that they're not going to be enrolled in schools if they do not move on after those 5 days. What happens? I know Norfolk has been so welcoming, and I'm wondering, I know that the governor has asked for people to open their homes. I'm wondering in Norfolk if we're seeing any of that, because the migrants might not have places to go. So I'm just interested in how things are going with kind of this new rule that kind of happened. It seemed like it was such a turn so quickly after attending both of your Norfolk meetings and hearing the information there, and seeing the plan and the work that had gone into how you guys were going to handle this when it came out.
Well, if appropriate, let me see if I can update you on what we know. And I'll caution it by saying that what I learn on a Tuesday changes on a Thursday, because that's pretty much been. When this all started, and we're 3 months into this now, when we had our first meeting with the state, which was about 4 days after we learned through social media posts that this was happening, because we had no advance knowledge or a phone call from anybody. I kidded with my buddy Jeff that we got 3-4 weeks notice, and he reminded me that he got 4 days notice. It just seems the way it is. We got our first meeting with the state. I would say for 30 days they were contentious. They were not informative, and they were not productive. We finally managed to break through those barriers. And I'll preface it by saying, look, I understand your concerns. And if there was miscommunication on either side, it's unfortunate and it shouldn't have happened. So from my side, if it happened on our end, you may have my extreme apology, because Joe and I have had a good working relationship. We're old warriors. We've been through this a long time. That was never the intent. But this has consumed us. This is not 90 people in a hotel. This is 400 people in a prison. And the questions that we had were off the chart. We instructed our police and our fire to communicate with all surrounding towns, and I know for a fact they have. I know that our fire chief and police chief have been in constant communication with Wrentham, with Plainville, and Foxborough and Walpole. And they've had contingency plans for all kinds of things, and I salute them for the hard work they put in on this. The change on August 1st was a huge deal, because I will admit that we had the public safety part pretty well under control. We have not had a single public safety incident in the 3 months that they've been there, not one. And if you watched our last meeting, the police and fire chief were there, they confirmed that. We were able to negotiate a number of things with the state that, quite honestly, other towns have not gotten. And it isn't that we're better or worse, we're unique. And we finally got them to see that. There is an on-site ambulance at the prison currently to alleviate any calls. We have not had one single mutual aid call as a result of the prison. In fact, ironically, because we've had 3 prisons in our town for a long time, until the 2015 closure, we've actually had fewer calls than we had under the old days when we had to service 3 prisons. So it has been a very manageable incident for us to date, and we've had zero police incidents in our community.
Jim,
But
how many individuals are there at this point? I know at the meeting for the school at that point, it was 150. Has that increased?
There are 255 people at this current moment there.
Have any received eviction notices yet for the 5 days? Have they been receiving the eviction notices for the 5 days after the 5 days?
Some have, the most of them have, and there are 4 exceptions to the 5 days. The first is quarantine. Should someone be ill or sick, then obviously they're quarantined and they can't leave within that period. The second is if the state makes a mistake, then there are some few days, not many, for the state to correct it in terms of their future placement, and they could stay a few days beyond the 5th day. The third is if they are ticketed to a new location and the plane is either canceled or relocated or changed or whatever, they're allowed to have that reticketed and that extend their stay. The one that probably poses the most question is the 30-day option. The 30-day option is where a placement has been made for that family, but the facility, whatever that might be, and I don't know the answer to that, is not ready or prepared to take them, but they cannot stay beyond the 30 days. The good news out of all of this is that it is having to say that no students will enter our schools. We can't say that because they have a legal right once they enter our town to go to the schools and enroll in the schools. But the process has changed dramatically. The state will inform them of their rights, but will not encourage them to enroll because they're there for a very short period of time. If they choose to, they would have to, on their own, go to the school and enroll as any other resident would that might enter the town of Norfolk, provide all the certification and necessary backup to enroll in our systems. The likelihood of that happening is pretty low.
Does that include vaccinations? Because I know that was a big.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Yep. All of the requirements to enter our schools would be the same for any student entering our schools. And that would be true for King Philip as well. Under the old system, we were going to hire what's known as a coordinator, and Dr. Drollet can elaborate more on it, but I'm also on the King Philip School Committee, so I can tell you a little bit about this. That coordinator would have gone into the prison once every week to work through the enrollment process for students, because we thought we're going to be getting a lot of students for 30 to 60 days, which was, quite frankly, an almost unmanageable situation for us. We really had no magic answer to this. The change is that we will not fill that coordinator position. There'll be no one going into the site to enroll people in our schools. They would have to initiate this entirely on their own as any other resident coming into the town of Norfolk. So we're pretty comfortable that while we can't guarantee that no students will enter, it's highly unlikely. The last report we got last Thursday was that half of the initial residents have been placed already. The original, I've forgotten the number. I believe it was, well, I don't want to quote a wrong number, but the original number of families that came under the old plan, half of those been placed, and the remainder will be placed within the next 30 days. That's what we were told on Thursday. That's when we also learned about the 5-day or the 4 exceptions that might take place. I checked into it today, and there have been really no changes to that. Tomorrow may be different. But right now, I can tell you that, this is not the most ideal situation that any town would want. But based on where we are, it's probably the best we could hope for. We don't see much impact, and Dr. Drolet can elaborate, but we see very little impact to the schools. We did manage to get a $250,000 grant from the state to do some reconstruction of our schools to provide more classrooms. That grant is now gone because we don't anticipate the need to do that. We did hire at King Philip 1 teacher and in Norfolk 2 teachers, specialists, under contract to deal with the old strategy. The state has guaranteed us payment of those 3 teachers for the full school year. We incurred expenses in the Norfolk system for some redesign. The state is reimbursing us for those expenses. So as of right now, we have no out-of-pocket costs. We have 3 teachers on staff between Norfolk and King Philip that are being paid for by the state for the full academic year. And we've had no incidents in terms of public safety with the facility to date.
Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, Joe. Just 1 or 2 questions. I'm just curious. Sure. They're saying they're getting placement. Are you a revolving door? Are you going to be getting additional people coming in, and this will just kind of continue? And let me be clear, and I think other board members, we have said this. This is not about the individuals. This is about the process, right? Here,
yep.
Concern is about the process. These individuals cross the border. I'm sure these individuals can enroll in King Philip or Norfolk schools. So that can easily happen. But so I'm really trying to understand in terms of the placements when you're saying, the 5 days to 30 days. Where are you? I'm sure the board and people that are working with the state, where are these individuals going? Are they being placed in other centers in the state? Are you then going to be getting other folks from other centers that are they moving around, or permanent places? From what I understand, we don't even have that permanent for mass residents that are homeless. So just curious what you've heard on that front.
Well, that makes 2 of us. I have asked that question multiple times since this all happened in the last 10 days. I don't know that I can give you a reasonable answer because they haven't given me a reasonable answer. The vast majority, my understanding, of the people that are coming in on this 5-day placement will in fact be out of the facility within 5 days. The overwhelming majority, both the firm that is in charge of the facility, as well as the state officials we're working with, have made that very clear. It's also been very clear to us on several occasions that this process will not go beyond the 6 to 12 months. We have literally been told directly this facility will be closed prior to 12 months. There are reasons behind that, which we discovered, but I won't get into it. But I'm comfortable that that's going to be be the case. Dr. Drolet can elaborate a little bit more. Dr. Drolet he's had conversations I've not been part of with DESE, which is the state educational arm, that he can probably, provide you a little bit better understanding of the potential risks to our schools. But what we've heard, it's minimal, if any. So far, the process has been as described. They've been living with it. But again, they're what? Today is the 13th. They're not even 2 weeks into this new strategy. So, we're watching. We have plans if it deviates. This is a very fluid event. It's been nothing that was on my radar screen, I can assure you, in my 18 years on the board. This has been quite an event. We have intentionally stayed out of the politics. The politics muddies the water for us. I can't change the policy. I don't like it. I can't change it, so I haven't dealt with it. We have tried to focus on its impact to our community and others, by the way, and try to understand what we can do to mitigate that. That's been our charge. And to date, we've been pretty successful.
If I could participate through the chair. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Hi, Rich Strolay, King Philip Superintendent, and thank you for having us. And I also want to offer my condolences to Wrentham and the Wrentham PD, Chief McGrath, and the Labonte family. So the question that you asked has been the biggest question we've been asked, and we don't know where they're going. We were told by the Department of Ed liaison, there's a ticketing system where they could be flying back to where they came from, other parts of the country. They could be taking a bus back to Boston, or they could be doubling up with other families they might know. In terms of school enrollment, nothing changes in terms of us following state guidelines and regulations. There's something called the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Act. We do already have homeless students in our schools. We added 14 from the Plainville shelter last September. And as far as I know, those students will still be with us in the fall, but we won't be receiving funding for them anymore. Any students enrolled, new students enrolled, we should be receiving the funding for them, $104 a day still, or $18,000 a year if a student were to stay for the year. But the biggest difference that the Department of Ed liaison told us is we shouldn't expect to receive any new students through the Norfolk shelter. There are exceptions, and it's important to note if a family were to stay here after the 5 days in the Tri-Town community, they would enroll with us most likely. But we don't know. We do have a homeless education liaison. The biggest difference is the site provider called Heading Home previously was going to work with a staff member that we were going to hire with money from the state to help enroll the students. We were going to send an EL teacher to the site to do language testing and to have them appropriately placed after being there for 7 to 10 days. That won't be happening anymore. So we're being told the site provider will not be assisting with school enrollment in Norfolk, but just focusing on their efforts on where they're going for them to get on their feet in 5 days. It is possible we still could have students enroll, but our homeless education liaison, and we'd probably need to get an interpreter first, which takes time, would need to talk to the family. They have the right to enroll their children with us, but if in 5 days they're going to another town outside of the Tri-Town area, they really shouldn't be enrolling with us. Our homeless education liaison would consult with them to enroll where they're going to, but it is possible. And like Mr. Lehan said, if a family were to go to enroll their children in our schools, we would need to enroll them, but we would work with them, and it's possible they could go to school where they previously lived if they were already enrolled there. But we're being told by the Department of Ed it is not likely to happen. It is possible. We deal with things on a case-by-case basis with homeless students and families as well. Like Mr. Lehan said, we did hire one staff member under contract, an EL teacher. We're going to keep that staff member at least for the year, and the Department of Ed has indicated they will pay for it, along with Norfolk Elementary's 2 teachers they hired for this year. We also wrote a grant, and we'll be receiving $20,000 to assist with students as well that we previously have from Plainville. But we don't know where they're going, so that's a great question, and every situation is different. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
No, thank you. That's very helpful. I know that when we asked you your perspective as it related to the separate topic, the MBTA, you said that you had plenty of room for folks in your school system. So I know that you would be ready then, if things turned and were different. I guess my last question, has Plainville received the money, the allocation on a consistent basis and in a timely manner from the state? And I really, state funded is just such an inaccurate term because it is our taxpayer money. It's not like the state is giving us some gift. It is our money that we are funding all of these state funded kind of grants and money that the state is saying for these programs. But I am curious about, from Plainville's perspective, since they've been in this for a year, on the consistency and the timeliness of payments as it relates to what the state has promised for schools, et cetera.
So I could let Mr. Johnson or Mr. Noble speak to that in terms of Plainville Elementary and the funding. Being a regional school system, we directly receive the funding. So I think we started off with 11 or 12, and then we were up to 14 students living in the Plainville shelter. So King Philip did directly receive that money. They're in payments 3 times a year. So we received the first 2 payments and we're waiting for the third payment. They look at enrollment on a daily basis and fund that $104 a day. So although we didn't have to hire any new staff members last year, we did use that to help offset our budget deficit. And if we received new students through the Norfolk shelter, we would get that money as well. But I'll let Mr. Johnson and Mr. Noble speak for Plainville with the elementary students or any other funding.
Thank you. Our payment, our reimbursement from the state mayor is what Dr. Gillette said. We're still waiting for the final payment. In addition, the students converted from the $104 a day to Chapter 70 money, and the town's assessment for KP for the 14 students was $262,000. The town now picks up. And that's based upon the October census. We have 14 students at KP and 17 in the elementary. The state did give us money for a transitional assistant in the schools. We did not get grant money as Jim got for Norfolk. So we'll be looking into that. Apparently there must be money available since they're not going to give you the money to add the classrooms now. So maybe we can get some of that. Our shelter is different. Our migrants have been there. Some of them have been there now 14 months. They've all been given 90 days to get out. We'll see. The other thing that really not 5 days, it's 6 days on the temporary. We have one family in there for 30 days. And we'll see how that works and whether they go to school or not. That might change our time. But even if they're given the 90 days, if they're there in October and attending KP, they fall into the census and we'll have to pay for them even if they leave a month later. So that's a little bit of an unfairness in the way the state is putting the burden on Plainville. It's not exactly like we were rolling in money in the first place.
Yeah.
So this really hurts.
And just to be clear, when we say them the census in October, Mr. Noble says we'll pay for them. We're paying for them in fiscal 26. So we'll be waiting for them for a year and a half.
They put them in Gallo.
I'm so sorry, but I just would like Mr. Noble to just say that again. I just want to make sure everyone understands that. So there's a chance that the town could be responsible for picking up the tab for one of these students where the town that they were previously in got the funding?
That is true, yes.
Well, I don't think there's any, I don't think any of these students were in a previous town getting funding. If we have,
I'm sorry, did I misunderstand the question? But
let me clarify. I'm sorry, Mr. Noble. I thought I was told or heard through this conversation that there was a chance that we could potentially inherit a student who got funding somewhere else, but then they were, after the 6th month, we were then going to be responsible for picking up the tab.
it depends upon the timing of the student. If they're in the school system but not counted in the census, that the minute they leave the school, the $104 goes away. The $104 a day goes away, goes to the school they're going to go to. If, for example, one of our students who's been attending KP moves to another community and transfers schools, we will still owe KP the assessment for that student who'd been there the previous October.
Okay, so that is a burden on obviously a burden on the taxpayer.
Correct.
Thank you for clarifying.
May I? Yeah, just to add to that, because that was an enormous concern. Mr. Noble has got it quite correct. It was a huge issue. We raised it to the state, the inequity of the system and the October ruling, especially for the regional system. It's just a totally unfair process. Plainville got nailed last year for that. We anticipated that we were going to get nailed big time under the old strategy for the same thing this year. We asked the state to look into it, and we got, I'll just call it a blank stare. We got nowhere with it. The way the system currently works with migrants coming in and potentially leaving and getting on the census in October is unfortunately tragically unfair to the neighboring towns. It's just not right. But we got nowhere with the state, and we approached it pretty logically, and we got nowhere.
And Mr.
Understood.
Gallo, just to explain a little bit more how it works, if I could, Mr. Chair, any student, October 1st, they take a snapshot. So the number of students through the Chapter 70 assessment and funding is based on the students we have on October 1st. So under your question, a student after October 1st wouldn't necessarily be captured until the following year, which could bring it out, like Mr. Johnson said, up to 18 months.
Thank you for clarification.
All right. Select Board Member Anderson, do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. A lot of good information tonight. Thank you.
All right. Select Board Member Harrington.
No, as I'm jotting questions down, they're being answered by Select Board Member Grouse and Gallo. I appreciate this meeting a great deal, and look forward to mutual meetings in the future.
You know, it's sort of, Wrentham's probably been the most vocal in this situation starting last September. And I think if you ask us why, it's because we think it's unfair. Why is it unfair to me? Is if you talk to our board members, some of our favorite events, yeah, the gala was a great time last year, but I'd rather march with my veterans on Memorial Day or to pray with them on Veterans Day. And nothing's being done for veterans. But these migrants are entering the state and getting services that nobody else are getting. And that's my gripe with this, is the people who fought for our freedoms are getting no fair treatment compared to what these people are getting. Food trucks being brought into the compound, a place to live. It's a prison, granted, but as Mr. Lee had told me, it's not a prison, they're dormitories. So I just wish the state had given our veterans first dibs on that shelter instead of migrants.
Can I ask you just a follow-up question to Mr. Lehan? Maybe he's aware of this. Mr. Lehan, I was told that one of the requirements for the shelter was that 50% of the occupants had to be residents, not migrants or illegal immigrants, whatever you want to say, migrants, homeless people in our community. I haven't gotten any answers when I've asked that question. Are they honoring that? Is that accurate? What is your experience with that?
It's a great question. One we've asked, and one actually I have an answer for you. And it's hard to get answers. This has been one of the most difficult processes I've ever been through, because you have to pull back the covers to get all the answers. What you hear is not always the right answer. And it's been really deeply disturbing to me, because I'm completely on your side. We have tried to be as transparent and open, and I know I'm going off a little topic, but I will answer directly your question. And so we probe and we push and we argue in a cooperative way. And we've stayed off of politics. Everything you just said, Joe, I wouldn't disagree with. But if we got into that conversation with the state, we'd have gotten nowhere, because it just muddies the conversation, because I can't change it. I wish I could, but I can't. So we've focused on solutions because we had no choice. The original comment made by the state was that the families that were eligible for this placement were 50% mass residents and 50% immigrants. That's what we were told. The families that are coming into the Norfolk facility are almost all immigrants. We've had, if any, and there may be a few, but we've been told it's mostly Haitian. And I've been in the facility when it's been occupied, and it is mostly Haitian. The state says that their total census of homeless families is in fact 50-50. but those families are not being placed in our facility. So I will take them at their word because I don't have a choice that their collective number is 50-50, but what's happening in Norfolk is 99, I give or take.
Appreciate
And it is what it is. We've had to deal with it. I will tell you that the facilitator operators heading home have been really great to work with. Our police and fire have been very pleased with them. They have strong security. They've been hired to do a tough job, and their cooperation with us has been outstanding. Our police and fire have had access to the facility anytime they want. I've had access to the facility anytime I want, which is not frequent because what am I going to do? This is not my pay grade. I have to rely on people far more knowledgeable than I am on this. So I think their statement's accurate, but it's not accurate for Norfolk.
I'll just through you, Mr. Chair. I'll just say this, Mr. Lehan. Appreciate the spirited conversation tonight. Like you, like your community, our police and fire are top notch as well, and I know they share some great job working together. I will say that I hope that this meeting tonight spurs much more communication, dialogue, and collaboration between our boards, because I still believe we're stronger together than we are separate. I do want to reiterate the point that Selectwoman Rouse said. This board's gotten a lot of criticism because we have been vocal. And I can't stress this enough. It is not the people, it is the process. And I will leave you with that, sir. So through you, Mr. Chair, no further questions.
Great. I want to thank you. And Jeff, I know you always enjoy coming to our meetings because you always told me you wish you could emulate a meeting like I do, but we'll let that go for now.
I just like being able to wear a comfortable shirt and not sit in the meeting room.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. My goal, my conversation with you, Jim, when we spoke a couple weeks ago, I think has been accomplished. We are here to support each other as the Tri-Town. I am glad, as Chris has alluded to earlier in one of our early discussions, our goal is to unite the communities, the three towns together, and to, show the camaraderie that we are as individual, but we are one. And we share one of the most successful, in my eyes, one of the most successful regional school systems that has been very fortunate for us, producing outstanding students that go on to outstanding colleges and to become very successful.
Well, Joe, I appreciate your willingness to allow me to join your meeting. I always enjoy talking with you, especially when you're down in Dennis.
Yeah.
Joe and I both have homes in Dennis, and yet he's on the north side, I'm on the south side, and I can't get him to move.
No, I have a rental on the north side.
Okay. Well, if you want to rent one in the south, let me know. But I do appreciate it. I'm sorry that at some point there appears to have been some breakdown in communication. That is, Joe, you've known me a long time. I have never turned down a meeting. In fact, I requested to come on your meeting, as you will recall.
Yep.
I'm open to this anytime. You gentlemen are always welcome at our meetings. I don't know how it broke down, but I'm going to try to find out, but I want to move past it. And this issue isn't going away. They're going to be here for a while. And as I've learned so quickly, things change from a Monday to a Tuesday. And please check our webpage, because anything we learn is on our webpage immediately. And then sometimes we find out what we post on a Monday changes on a Friday. But it's been quite an adventure. And I do want to pay I am on the King Philip School Committee, and I want to just tell you that no one will ever know the degree of work that the administration and teachers and staff at both King Philip and Norfolk have put in the last 90 days to try and work through what was the old strategy prior to August 1st, which basically seemed insurmountable to us. I cannot tell you not hours, but days that these folks worked to solve that. And I'm not sure they ever came up with the magic elixir, but they had a lot of alternatives and considerations. And I would be remiss not to compliment them, even though it's now past the wayside, if you will. The work that went into trying to figure this out was just incredible. And I would say that to police and fire. And I know firsthand that our police and fire have had wonderful communications with your guys. and that they have worked and stayed very close hand in hand. So I compliment you and your staff. And I was remiss in not providing my condolences to your loss. Please accept our deepest sympathy.
Thank you very much. Once again, Deputy Chief Labonte was a graduate of King Philip High School. Shows you the quality of people that produced. So thank you again. We're going to jump over to talk about the MBTA community on tab 7. I don't think we have much. Kevin, can you just, I know you did receive some updates. If you could kindly share that latest update from Congressman Auchincloss.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. No, I don't really have any real updates. I did just share, it wasn't a direct communication or correspondence from the congressman himself with regards to that, but it was a message that kind of has come through indirectly through some conversations that have asked specifically where the town of Wrentham is at with our complying with MBTA communities. Obviously, we're still in compliance and intend to be. We have through the rest of the calendar year, and we intend to move in that direction. And that's the message that was provided back. But there was something that was shared through us as a statement that I believe the congressman made with regards to specifically stating that cities and towns that don't comply with the MBTA Communities Act by allowing for more housing production will not be eligible for community project funding through the congressman's office, which is what the Congressman Auchincloss office said in a statement. And that message has kind of indirectly come back, and at least in some fashion, he's talking about that. And this is obviously the first concerning, the first time, as you know, this needle keeps getting moved as to what measures they'll take, or at least threaten to take. This is obviously of concern because of we have an active federal grant project right now in the sense of funding almost $1 million for water system improvements, a grant that the staff tirelessly works to try to get additional, take the tax burden off our residents and taxpayers. And we were ecstatic about this, and we put a lot of work in, a lot of effort. These grants aren't easy. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of staff commitment, a lot of staff time that goes into putting together thoughtful and technical grant requests. This is just another one of those things that would have never ever been on the table. And we've talked about very clearly the 4 grants that are outlined in the MBTA Communities Act, and we've seen that needle continue to get moved on grants that aren't even close to being in a housing choice grant. So it is concerning, it is troubling. So just want to be clear, there wasn't a direct message to Wrentham from Congressman's office that, but he did make a public statement warning his cities and towns that are part of his district there could be consequences of taking back federal grants, for his district members if those communities aren't compliant. So that's really the only kind of thing that's been stirring a little bit lately with regards to that. I think we're still very much kind of sitting back and monitoring other communities and where they're at. We continue to have dialogue on a regular basis. I still see Town Administrator Noble still on. I mean, we're all part of Norfolk County Managers Listserv, and much like migrants and anything else that's sort of a hot button, we have these on our monthly agenda meetings. We have these on our listserv email discussions, and just keep it on target where things are at. Any conversation I have is that the town is still in compliance. The town intends to get there, and at some point, this board and this community has never said we don't intend to bring forward a proposal to town meeting. So that is the message. But I just want the board to be aware that as I have said months ago, which is why my answer was months ago, how much money are we going to potentially lose? I said I have no idea. What I can tell you is that I think statutorily, things that are defined as Chapter 90, Chapter 70, I think that both at the federal level and at the state level, there's a lot of discretion on administrative awards and administrative grants, whether they're grants that we may not get because we're on some kind of list, whether we're grants that they threaten to take back. I think there's a lot of administrative control that they have that's under their purview, whether we like it or not. And that concerns me because, you know, we're not talking about a couple, 4 hypothetical grants that we probably may never see. You know, I never really had any high hopes that we'd get another big MassWorks grant. It'd be great, but I don't think we would get there. So now that they're treading in water that is way outside of, in the interpretation of the MBTA Communities Act, way outside of what's written and what what I fully believe the intent of the law was. It's concerning and troublesome, and I just want the board to be fully aware of that as well. You know, who knows? I'm going to be talking about another grant on the town manager's report that we got, another federal significant grant. So you know, it is concerning, and obviously they're digging their heels in. They're doubling down. The fact that they're in litigation with a partner, a local partner, another municipality. Yeah, I don't know where it'll stop. So just want to, you know, kind of just it's my job to advise the board and represent, you know, the overall well-being of the community. And if we're seeing real financial impacts, it's concerning.
Does the board member have any questions? Yes, Chris.
I had one question, Mr. Chair. Kevin, am I to understand that the town of Milton lost the seawall grant, that was taken away?
That is accurate. So at the time prior to this, they were awarded a seawall grant. When the ballot referendum did not pass, they then received notice after the fact that grant was being taken back. Yes, that's accurate.
Thank you.
And what does the seawall grant fall under? Certainly not any of those 4 columns.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just want to comment on this. You know, to Kevin's point, I mean, this is extortion. Let's call it what it is. If you're trying to hold funds over someone's head to vote a certain way, I mean, that's not the democratic process. We are 100% in compliance. We are 100% going to bring a proposal to the floor so that our 12,000 voters can decide what they want to do for our community. I think we should send a letter to Austin Klosh asking him to clarify his comment and say, are you threatening to withhold a federal grant because we are, you know, we're not in compliance of MBTA. We are in compliance as of right now. And he's making comments like that where, we're getting put on certain blacklists of federal money that is so far away from the 4 grants, as you mentioned, that were outlined in the MBTA communities. I mean, part of me wants to say, of course, we don't want to cost our taxpayers $1 million grant for our infrastructure. But the other part of me says, at what point do we give up completely? I mean, where does it end? If it's not this, it's going to be something else if we don't push back. So I would like clarification from the congressman and invite him to a meeting so we can ask him, are you threatening us with federal money that has nothing to do with the MBTA communities and the grants written in that law? Because that's something we at least need to tell our taxpayers and our board if we're being threatened that way. And again, I can't stress this enough. Anyone that has watched any of our select board meetings since the MBTA communities law was, brought to fruition, and we were told that, we needed to comply within a certain time period. We've always said we have a 3-pronged strategy: work with the state, investigate the legality, enforceability, and constitutionality, and come up with a plan that we're going to bring to the floor so that the voters can vote if they want to be in compliance. The fact that this is happening is like bonkers to me that this is happening. And I just want to say, like, I just, this is tyrannical ridiculousness. I don't know where this ends if someone doesn't push back and put a stop to this.
All right. Select Board Member Rouse, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted, through you, Kevin, the subcommittee of the planning board was meeting at the same time as we were this evening, correct, regarding the MBTA?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that's actually why Greg was on late. He was helping them with some IT related issues. So yeah, I did see them in there, and I know Greg was with them earlier. So I think they are meeting.
So again, we are working looking at all solutions and to reemphasize what Mr. Gallo has said, we've always, educate our residents, come up with different scenarios, what's going to be best for Wrentham residents in making this decision, and they'll make this decision, not us as a board, but them. All of us together. That's all.
Agreed. And that's been, as I said, that's been my response to anything, and continues to be that that's where we're at. And again, I just want to stress or clarify that this wasn't a direct notice to Wrentham. It was a generalized across, I think, his 38 communities in the district. But certainly by making a statement like that, we're in that, right? And I know we're in that. So I just wanted to clarify that. I know you understand that, but and as Selectman Gallo said, we are in compliance, we intend to be, and we've never said that we had no intention of doing anything but that. So just want to make you aware.
Thank you.
Like Board Member Anderson, do you have anything to add?
No, I think the discussion went well. And, I'm a little concerned how, federal politics, crosses into state politics. But that's a question for the senator or congressman if he ever shows at one of our meetings.
Well, I have a question is, where is the oceanfront property in Milton? Isn't that Quincy that has oceanfront?
They got a storm wall somewhere.
Giant
Yeah.
seawall.
Right in the Dorchester, Milton, Lowell Falls area, they do have a little bit of a ravine. It's 26 feet. I think Chris and I could build that wall real simple for them.
So based on the amount of the grant, I don't think it was a very large seawall.
Yeah.
Wasn't enough zeros.
All right.
Mr. Chair, would you just, if you would entertain, I believe Zach O'Friel is on, and he probably should have been added sooner. Would you mind taking that tab 11 so we can get Mr. O'Friel off? He's the only one actually that's waiting, that'd be participating as from the public.
I'm very sorry, Zach. Zach, welcome to the select board meeting. And as you can tell, it's been a little bit of a strange meeting. So you're looking to become a member of the historical commission. In that position we just had an opening from somebody stepped down, or is this a I just drew a blank.
Mr. Chairman, it would be associate member.
Associate member. Okay, that's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
All right. So we welcome you. What we're going to do is we're going to interview you. It takes about an hour and a half. No, just kidding.
Good.
I'm going to open the floor to the select board members to ask you any questions you may have. Select board member Anderson.
Yes, sir. If you could just, for the record, just introduce yourself and give us a little background on why you want to be an associate member, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting. My name's Zach O'Friel. I just recently moved to Wrentham in June, so I'm very new to the town. But I did live in Franklin for around 5 years prior to this, so I'm kind of, I'm used to the area. And then I also lived in Westwood for a few years before that, so I've been in Norfolk County now for 7 or 8 years. So I kind of have a good idea of, the current, kind of the current landscape of the area, and then also the area's history. Of course, I know Justin from Wayfair. We worked together at Wayfair. So I have some experience with the Fairbanks house. It's a part of his, his family is very involved in the maintaining the Fairbanks house in Dedham. I also have a master's in history from Providence College. I went there for undergrad. I did business for undergrad. I worked in business for a few years, and that's when I met Justin at Wayfair. Then I went back to school to become a teacher. I got my master's in history. I'm currently a high school teacher at Woonsocket High School. And then hopefully I can get into a Massachusetts school in the next few years. But I'm very interested in the commission because I'm passionate about making history, approachable for people and making it more relatable. So I found that including personal stories of people in the community is very good to engage people with history, and also to make it more relevant. So when people see that things in their community connect to history, it makes it more interesting and engaging. And also the idea that, people find it easier to connect with narratives and stories about history, but also realizing that there's different perspectives that go into creating those narratives. So it's always great to have conversations, about history and putting it all together and seeing what different people think.
Okay, Zach, well, thank you, and good luck tonight.
Thanks.
Select Board Member Gallo, who was having technical difficulty with his screen.
Apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apologize for that psychedelic performance that was happening. It reminded me of college. But listen, Zach, it's so great to have people that want to get involved in our community. I happen to know Justin myself. I think he's doing a great job with the Historical Commission. I just want to thank you. You seem very talented. You seem very capable, and love the fact that you're an educator. So good luck tonight. Welcome aboard. I look forward to working with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
All right, Select Board Member Harrington.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So, yeah, thank you. Appreciate you, taking the time to, want to volunteer for our town and learn about the town. I'm also glad that our historical building has better ceiling height than the Fairbanks house. So you won't be wagging your head as you walk through the building.
Right. Better air conditioning too.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
So at any rate, I appreciate you taking the time to volunteer and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington.
All right, but Bill, just remember that it's quicker to get to the Tahiti from the Fairbanks house than it is from the historical building.
No question.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Zach, no specific questions. Your experience is outstanding. It's so wonderful to see people like yourself volunteering, willing to share the history of the town, being a part of this commission. It's wonderful. So thank you for stepping forward, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right. So at this time, well, Justin, do you have anything to add?
No, I appreciate everything that Zach could add to the commission. I think again, he's gone above and beyond for his love of history, and I think the town could only use another good addition to the commission. So nothing else besides that.
Great. So at this time, the chair entertain a motion to appoint Zach O'Friel to the Historical Commission as an associate member for a term effective immediately and expiring on June 30th, 2027.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Selectman Harrington? We'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
All right, that passed 5-0. What you need to do is go by the clerk's office at Town Hall to be sworn in, and we welcome you to the town.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair.
All right, let's go over to tab 8. So at this time, the chair entertains a motion to sign the 2024 state primary election warrant.
So moved.
Motion made by Select Board Member Harrington, seconded by Select Board Member Anderson. Go to a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
It passed 5-0.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the electronic signatures?
Ahmed, is that something that Cindy wanted wet signature on?
Yes, she did.
She did, I think, yeah.
Yes. So you need to go by the office and sign that warrant.
When does that need to be signed by?
What time is it? No, how much?
I think we got time. We'll confirm definitively with Cindy.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This time, the chair entertained a motion to appoint the election workers per the list provided for a new term effective immediately, expiring on April 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so my mind's a little mushy today. I think it was Selectman Harrington made the motion. And I got a second, loud and clear, from Select Board Member Rouse. We don't get many of those, so I'm going to take it. So no further discussion. We'll go to roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Gross, yes.
All right, that passed 5-0. Okay, at this time, the chair entertains a motion to appoint Robin Tobin to the Employees Group Health Insurance Advisory Committee for a term effective immediately, expiring on June 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Moved.
Motion made by Select Board Member Anderson, seconded by Select Board Member Harrington. Is there any questions on this? All right, being done, we'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Oh, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Gross, yes.
Okay, that passed 5-0. At this time, we have a resignation from our Zoning Board of Appeals of Walter Pelrine, who's been on that as far back as I can remember. So we have an email I would ask our clerk to read into the record.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair, it says, good morning. I would like to take this opportunity to submit my resignation from the Wrentham Zoning Board of Appeals effective July 31st, 2024. As several new members have been appointed, I feel that this is the appropriate time to depart. I've enjoyed my time on the ZBA and wish the new members a successful time on the board. Respectfully submitted, Walter F. Pelrine.
All right. So at this time, the chair entertains a motion to accept with regrets, the resignation of Walter Pelrine from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Select Board Member Harrington. Go to a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes, with regrets.
Select Board Member Botash, yes, with regrets. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes, with regrets.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes, with regrets.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Gross, yes, with regrets.
All right, that passed 5-0. We're gonna go over to tab 13. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the resignation. Let me try this again. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to accept with regrets the resignation of Judy Hoy from the Cultural Council.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Select Board Member Harrington. Do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson with regrets.
Botash with regrets. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo with regrets, yep.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, regrets, yeah.
And
Yes.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Gross, with regrets, yes.
All right, that passed 5-0. Let's go over to Town Administrator's Report on tab 14. Kevin, do you have anything for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a few quick updates before we wrap up. The Public Works Building Committee actually met this afternoon. We received responses for the RFQ for the Owner's Project Manager, or OPM. We've had over 20 firms and reps reach out with interest on the OPM project. We received 7 submittals. The committee did review those 7 today. We ranked them accordingly, and we have recommended 3 to look further into, and we'll be scheduling interviews of a subcommittee of the Public Works Building Committee to make a recommendation of a selected OPM firm. And so things are progressing. As you know, there was some delays with getting that RFQ out, and ultimately, but the committee, we're fortunate to have a very strong committee. We got folks that are on there with a background that's fantastic, and I think we'll be able to pull together a good OPM and hopefully work towards the design phase fairly soon. I mentioned briefly that we were awarded from the Department of Homeland Security the Assistance to Firefighter Grant in the amount of $1 million in federal funding for both Norfolk and Wrentham to purchase a regional 100-foot aerial tower truck. This would replace essentially, so we we're kind of excited to see this. We did put together a joint application, both Wrentham Fire and Norfolk Fire, Chief Kinney, Chief Marino leading that effort. Both of us have had ladder trucks, aerial replacement on our capital plan for a number of years. Ours is, we've been buying time. It's a 27-year-old apparatus, 1997 Pierce Arrow. The cost and why we haven't put anything forward is just the cost is astronomical. To replace an aerial ladder, this is proposed as a Quint style, similar to what Franklin recently purchased. To come up with $2 million plus is just obviously is a tough hurdle to overcome. Our unit is old. It's dated. It's the life on it is struggling. It's still running. Norfolk, I believe, is planned to be out of service, or will be fully out of service when the new station is live. So we're both in desperate need. Both were kind of unexpectedly awarded it. I think neither one of us alone would have received this grant. So the regional application approach, the chiefs are more than comfortable. We talked about doing a similar approach with the town of Franklin, and for just some of the logistics and department nuances and size and things like that, made it a little bit more complicated. Plus, they were ready to move on it almost immediately. With this grant and having this grant support, and we'd be receiving $1 million. I think on the highest estimated end, it would be about a $1.4 million delta, which would require 700,000 each from each of the two communities. That's again a little on the high end, but fully outfitted, fully made up. We would probably maintain our ladder as a secondary unit without making any real repairs of significance, just to maintain, as long as it's still roadworthy and passing it. But it does not make sense to continue to dump money into it. As you can imagine, these ladder trucks are substantial. Even just to replace a tire is a big investment. So they're costly. But again, $1 million that we did not expect to receive. It was a nice letter to get. It saves both communities significant amount of money. Beyond that, like I said, us alone, we're looking at 2 to 2.4 million to go out and replace ours, and same with Norfolk. So having it as a shared regional approach makes a lot of sense. Particularly the ladder is needed, but it's not a day-to-day first do apparatus like our engines are. But when it's needed, it's needed. And it's needed for a number of things, mostly from a firefighter tactical approach with fighting fires. It's not just necessarily we need to get to 4 stories, 5 stories up. It's used beyond what most lay folks would assume. It's just a ladder just to go up high. So it's exciting at least to have that piece. That will mean that there needs to be that committed funding to support our portion of it, which I would anticipate will be probably about $700,000, which is about the cost of an engine alone. But having that $1 million contribution and the split 50% of that delta certainly helps. So I just want to make the board aware of that, because it's kind of taking a little bit of priority with getting that grant. And the fact that we received it, we wouldn't have gotten a loan, and I don't think we would ever be able to see again if we didn't accept it. So they're moving forward, Chief Kinney and Chief Marino, with plans, and obviously there's there would be some intermunicipal agreements and things that aren't unsurmountable. Then the location and things like that of maintenance and shared costs related to it. I really commend both of them for the willingness to think out of the box here and really start to think about firefighting and the fire service and some of these regional approaches, which is oftentimes an immediate wall and hurdle, and very much home rule and local. And I think a lot of this stuff we can do on a regional level, and this is just one of those things that shows that step in that direction. So happy to answer any questions on that. This just came out Friday. I would expect we'll probably be doing a more formal kind of press release with probably a joint type of thing. But it's a good opportunity. Selectman Gallagher, what was your question on that? I'm sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
I think this is awesome. It's a great idea, but obviously, the questions that I have are like, who determines who gets priority if there's two emergencies at the same time? Like I'm sure that never happens, but until it does, I'm sure, is there like a thorough plan that has to be worked out? Like you said, you got to determine where the thing sits, how often they get it, how often we get it, what constitutes an emergency that trumps the other. I mean, I think this is amazing, but whenever you're sharing something with another municipality, I imagine these issues come up.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's always tough too when you think about geographical. I mean, obviously Norfolk's contiguous, and this thing could be anywhere on any given time, right? So you could live out in the West End and be closer to Bellingham, South Bellingham response unit potentially than you could be another, but you could also be out closer on the Norfolk line, and they're closer than possibly being housed in Wrentham's response. It would be wrong of me to state how it was going to be handled. I do know, obviously, all of these things have been discussed and need to be laid out in a formalized intermunicipal agreement, and understanding the response. The good thing is that a lot of these things are very much mutual aid. We depend heavily on Plainville's aerial. Franklin has a new one because of the condition of ours. And oftentimes a ladder truck is not a first due unit. So the guys, the engines are getting out there, they're running hose, they're finding hydrants, they're hooking in. And then, if a ladder is needed, they're kind of dispatched accordingly. We do share a regional dispatch. As you know, and the MEC is working on kind of creating more of almost a little bit more of a regional, larger, with automatic sending and things like that on kind of the numbering system, as opposed to each community having dedicated engine numbers. It's a little bit more complicated, but I don't think it's as concerning as it might sound. Fortunately, again, it's very rarely used. And in fact, I think Plainville's for the first, $1.5 million aerial, I think it was used in Wrentham twice before it had been used in Plainville in 3 years. And one of them was for a funeral for us that hung a flag. So, it is not used. It's a piece of equipment that you need. But it isn't regularly a functioning, piece of equipment, if you will. But it will all be absolutely laid out logistically and worked out, not just a verbal commitment, but in writing, working through, through some of that. But all of the chiefs within our region and within our MEC communities all have great working relationships, and I have no concerns that those things won't be handled.
Understood. Thank you.
Absolutely. The only other thing, Mr. Chair, I had for this evening is just to make an announcement that Scott Smith has been hired by the town of North Attleboro as the Regional Veteran Service Officer, will be appointed by the 3 communities as our individual VSO. The official press release on that will be going out later this week, but Mr. Smith is a longtime Marine Corps veteran, United States Marine Corps, was a disabled American veteran as a sergeant major. He's worked for the last 10 years, currently as a junior ROTC, NJROTC Marine instructor at the Tolman Senior High School in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Over the last 10 years, he's worked as a program analyst in the Naval Recruiting New England District Office out of Boston. He's got prior experience at Joint Task Force at Guantanamo Bay as a senior listed advisor to the commander, served as a sergeant major in the Marine Forces Pacific in Honolulu, Hawaii, was part of the Marine Attack Helicopter Squadron. He certainly has a well decorated service background. Sounds like a great fit for our new veteran service officer. We have not been engaged in that process, as it was hired by the town of North Attleboro, but we do, obviously, like we have in the past, once he gets settled in, we'll be setting up our own, internal meetings, and we'll ask to put him on a future select board agenda so that the board can meet him, ask him some questions, and but based on the resume we were provided, and the recommendation from our colleagues over there, and the moving forward of the hiring of him, seems like he will be a great fit. Certainly has a well-decorated background, and look forward to working with Scott.
Great.
All right. Any questions for the town administrator? All right, being none. Once again, our thoughts and prayers are with the Labonte family as George makes his journey back home. And I'm sure we'll be publicizing through social media and different avenues the arrangements for his visitation and burial. I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your permission, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Selectman Harrington. We'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson's a yes.
Select Board Member Botash is a yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo's a yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Russ, yes.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.